executive session?
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Mr. Sacagawea?
Yes.
Mr. Bostic?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Garrett? And myself. Okay, we need certification.
Mr. Chairman, I move to certify that to the best of our knowledge that only public business matters lawfully exempted from our meeting requirements and only such public business matters as were indicated in the motion to go into executive session was heard, discussed, and considered in executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Mr. Sacagawea?
Yes.
Mr. Bostic?
Question, need a second on that?
Well, we're just doing the cert.
Yes, I'll look at it.
Okay. Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Garrett?
Yes.
And myself, yes. We'll stand at this time for invocation and pledge by Mr. Parsons.
Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this day you've given us, Lord, and thank you for so many blessings you've given us in our lives, Lord. Thank you for everything you've done for us this year. It's been tough, but we look to you, Lord, and you've guided us through it, and we just look for you to keep guiding us and giving us the right answers, Lord, and just bless us and keep us on the right path, Lord, and thank you for everything you've done for us. We ask you to please bless our government and military, Lord, and keep them safe. And just let everybody be safe, Lord, and all these football games, and everybody just be at the top of their game. And thank you for everything you've done for us. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Dr. Brown, do we have any adjustments for our agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Approval to finalize it. Do we have a motion that we approve the minutes without reading?
Someone.
Yes.
We have a motion to finalize the agenda.
Okay, we need a motion to finalize the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons, a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, we'll do the approval of the minutes and dispense of the reading if it be the pleasure of the board. If I have a motion.
I so make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sacagawea. All in favor? Aye. Dr. Brown, we have recognitions this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll ask Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Fletcher, to come forward and lead us through it.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Madam Chair, members of the board, it's a pleasure to bring some of our recognitions to you tonight. First of all, we're very happy to be able to present to you the state wrestling winners from Castlewood High School. They made a great showing, so I would like to ask Adam Gibson, Heath Sutherland, Jacob Maxfield, if they would come forward with their coach and principal. I think they're in the hall.
Thank you.
There we go. Adam, Heath, Jacob, come on down. Jason, and Mr. Robertson. Family, you're welcome to come and stand behind your son. All of you can come on down. Mr. Robertson, would you like to make some comments here?
Well, I tell you, when all this COVID stuff hit, and they started putting things off, and I guess the one thing in my mind, when they talked about wrestling, it really, it worried me, it scared me, but I think these three young men are testament to the steps they took to keep themselves safe, the discipline they have. The sport they have requires the discipline anyway. But on top of that, just the discipline they showed to make sure they're healthy, eating right, taking steps, and that falls back on this man right here. First year, and have these three young men going to state, and the success they have, that speaks a lot of, Mr. Castle was our coach, and I couldn't be more thrilled to have him, and I'm thrilled to have our young men. So proud of them, not only for what they do on the wrestling mat, but what they do and give to our school in so many different ways.
Mr. Castle, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I'm just proud of them. They've worked hard. They still got a long way to go. I believe we got some future state champions again coming up. And I appreciate everything everybody here has done, the support of the principal, our community. But I'm just proud of them, and they're really, really nice young men, and they got a bright future ahead of them. Thank you.
All right, we have for Heath Sullivan, presented to Heath Sullivan, Castlewood High School by the Russell County School Board in recognition of winning third place in the 132-pound weight class at the 2021 VHSL Group 1A State Wrestling Tournament. Presented to Jacob Maxfield, Castlewood High School by the Russell County School Board in recognition of winning second place in the 182-pound class at the 2021 VHSL Group 1A State Wrestling Tournament. Not the first time, but the second time, presented to Adam Gibson, Castlewood High School by the Russell County School Board in recognition of winning first place in the 106 weight class at the 2021 VHSL Group 1A State Championship. If you would, we'll go right ahead here, we'll get some photographs, we can get you guys in the newspaper.
Thank you for that. Roger.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Guys, where did you put it? On that side?
And now we go
that
to
side. Go back in.
Now we have our employees of the month. This year, our support employees of the month, the nomination was for Shelley Snipes and Frankie Elam. They kind of tag teamed the two schools at Castlewood. I'd like to ask them to come forward. The administrators are here to join us. And our teacher of the month is Sharon Owens at Russell County Career and Technology Center. Fantastic. All right, the nomination for Shelley and Frankie. Undoubtedly, school nurses are more important now than ever before. For a full calendar year, Shelley Snipes and Frankie Elam have been doubly vulnerable to this pandemic as both essential healthcare workers and essential school staff. We've always relied on school nurses to care for our children during cold and flu seasons and to bandage the occasional PE injury, but COVID-19 has put this profession into perspective for all of us. We've taken our school nurses for granted. Every year we're tasked with the responsibility of completing bloodborne pathogen training. Thankfully, I've never had to put that training to use. However, it is an everyday occurrence for our school nurses. Few possess the ability to manage dripping or bloody noses and upset stomachs without cringing or becoming queasy themselves. Now take those routine symptoms, magnify them infinitely, and walk directly toward, not away from, the most easily transmittable and deadly disease of the last century. These ladies have endured an influx of information daily, only to have that information reverse course, be updated, or outdated within days, and develop by the minute. They've been diligent in learning about this disease, and if they were overwhelmed or frustrated, no one would ever know. They made themselves available to answer questions, did copious amounts of paperwork, and even administered the vaccine itself to the employees of Russell County Public Schools. For the elementary school students, many of the fears and apprehensions regarding in-person teaching and learning were alleviated simply by having these two dedicated, caring, and knowledgeable professionals a few doors or a phone call away. Nurse Shelley and Frankie have played and will continue to play an instrumental part in the health and safety of our most valuable resource, our children. For that, we are incredibly grateful.
And for us, County School Board, I'd like to acknowledge Frank. Thank you. For us, County School Board, I'd like to recognize Shelley Snipes. Thank you.
And now the Teacher of the Month, Sharon Owens. She is the Placement Director and JAG Coordinator at Career and Technology Center. This came from a parent. I was really impressed with how Ms. Owens is trying to help with anything she can regarding the students she works with, or any student for that matter. This year has been a very trying time, and having someone with a cheerful, can-do attitude like she has is very reassuring. It is very reassuring that I can have someone to help me get my kids on the right path. Congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Ms. Eagles one gave me,
Oh, did she give you your shot?
and our,
They give me mine too. Thank you, girls.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Brown, delegations on the agenda this evening.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. We did have a conversation. Ms. Brandy Hurley spoke to us a few weeks ago, like the rest of the board. I don't believe she was with us, Madam Chair, but we do have another delegation available at the end of our agenda.
Yes, sir. Okay. Okay, board, that takes us down to approval of our bills and accounts. If you've had an opportunity to look at them, don't have a question or address
Madam
any.
Chair, I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Bostic. Do we have a second?
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons.
Gibson.
Excuse me. All in favor? Aye. Okay, Dr. Brown, approval of resignations and retirements.
Yes, Madam Chair, I have a list that, again, it's that time of the year, and it's going to be, a fairly large list this month, but I do have a list for the board's consideration tonight, majority of which of our folks are retiring.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make the motion to approve the resignations and retirements as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Zapwidget. Do we have a second? Thank you, Ms. Garrett. All in favor? Aye. And we'd like to thank each and every one of them for their time and service with Russell County Schools. Dr. Brown, new personnel and transfers.
Yes, Madam Chair, again, we have a list. This mainly is athletic. We are starting the process, of course, of posting the positions from our retirees. We'll be having, again, this list become fairly lengthy as we move forward. But again, I do have a somewhat small list for the board's approval tonight.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bostic. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Dr. Brown.
Madam Chair, we have 4 action items tonight. The first one is an employee action. The recommendation from the superintendent tonight is for employee A to be moved from administrative leave with pay to administrative leave without pay. Again, with those funds going in the interest-bearing escrow account until resolution.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. A second? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Garrett. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, Dr. Brown, our 2021, 2022 CTE Annual Plan.
Yes, Madam Chair, much like our special education plan, we have a CT plan that has to be approved annually by the board, and we have that for the board's approval tonight with an impact of roughly $79,000 for our CTE programs through Perkins.
Okay. I think Mr. Fletcher takes care of that, right?
Yes, does an excellent job.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Garrett. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Dr. Brown?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have a third item is the land adjacent to Lebanon High School. At the September 2017 school board meeting, the members approved the purchase of the land adjacent to Lebanon High School in collaboration with the Board of Supervisors. This land was pursued to create additional entrance to the Lebanon High School property and the adjacent housing in that area. At this point in time, the recommendation from staff is that we abandon this purchase as the cost associated with developing the land for a second entrance is much larger than we had originally anticipated.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we rescind the motion to move forward with the securing of the 10-acre section of property connected to Lebanon High School, which additionally connects to Donald Seymour Drive to Route 71 and connection on the north and west of Lebanon High School at the rate of $10,000 to $14,000, depending on financing for 10 years, which was made and approved on September 7, 2017.
Thank you, Mr. Boston.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sacagawea. All in favor? Aye. Any contrary? Okay, Dr. Brown?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have a fourth item for the board's consideration tonight. With the Lebanon High School Ag Shop that we're working on at this time, we have some flexibility needs when it comes to the wastewater management of that facility. When it comes to the septic and such, we are asking the board's consideration for flexibility tonight. If we can't tie the septic into the traditional sewage lines, we're fine. The issue is if that's not feasible, then we would need to construct a septic tank, which we've done periodically with other projects. And with that being said, I just simply need the board's approval to have the flexibility to use whichever method is most effective and efficient.
I'll make a motion to give Dr. Brown the flexibility to do whichever one will be best for.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Would another board member have a second for that?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Dr. Brown, do you have a coronavirus update for us?
Yes, Madam Chair. Things continue to improve. Our biggest issue at this point in time, when we receive numbers from the state, from the Department of Health here locally. We also receive numbers from Ballot. The biggest concern I have right now is the level of positivity. 13.7 was the latest numbers that was given to us from Ballot. That's still concerning. We're a long ways from being out of the woods, but we're definitely improving from where we were. We have had a slight uptick in cases in the region, in the state here lately. Hopefully we'll be able to continue our vaccinations and again get grips on that. Some good news, for the first time in Russell County, we're going to have our first drive-through clinic next Wednesday on the campus of Castlewood Elementary and High School. We're going to have a drive-through clinic starting at 12 o'clock. We have apparently from the Department of Health roughly 6,000 people that have signed up on a wait list. We're going to be able to hopefully support the first 1,500 with this vaccination clinic, and it's going to run from 12 o'clock on to the evening to 6 or 7. So we're looking forward to helping our friends with the Department of Health and administer those vaccines. Those are the Johnson & Johnson products. So we're happy that that's a one-shot product, and again, it'll be available to those 1,500 that have been registered and contacted from the Department of Health.
Thank you for that information, Dr. have first reading of the policies.
Yes, Madam Chair, it says the spring, and we do run into 2 or 3 cycles of policies. These policies, again, are available to the board under the policy tab, and the board, of course, will have next month to review those. I'll have that back to the board as an action item next month. The majority of these policies at this point in time for this cycle are just simply some grammar issues that they wanted to address. We are expecting a fairly large group of policy changes to come down from the latest legislative actions from our General Assembly. So once we get those, again, we'll have that before the board as well for a read before we bring that as an action item. So again, it's simply an information item for the board's perusal between now and our next board meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Our sales tax for March was $351,763.32. ADM through February the 28th, 2021 was $3,320. Does the board have an opportunity to look at the maintenance report? Expenditure report. Future agenda items.
Again, Madam Chair, we'll have as action next month the approval of the policies presented under information. And we'll be looking for finalizing a last day of school next month as well, and our summer school program.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Delegations that's not on the agenda.
Be more than happy to turn the podium over to anyone who would like to speak to the board.
Okay, if we don't have anyone, our regular board meeting will be May 6th, Thursday, May 6th. 5 o'clock. Does any board member have anything they want to address us?
I'd like to thank Homemaker High School for our delicious meal tonight.
It was just a feast.
A feast.
Wasn't just a meal, it was a feast.
Madam Chair, on this item as well,
Yes.
I'll remind board members that on April the 20th, we have our second insurance meeting for that committee at 10 o'clock here at the central office. And also we have our second budget workshop. That'll be at 4 o'clock again on the 20th. And again, the spring forum, that is going to be virtual, and we registered board members for that, so they should be able to, board members should be able to log on and participate through their Chromebooks on the 22nd.
Okay, so all board members aware of this, April the 22nd.
Are we meeting here to do that, or are we going to do it at home?
Could we make it contingent, Dr. Brown, about maybe coming here to do it in one of the conference rooms or something?
We have to have a pretty strong system at home to
Yes.
log into that?
Yeah, it does require some bandwidth, and again, with this being, a public meeting now, we can make that notice.
Could we make it contingent? Yeah.
Again, the key thing is, it's just simply the spring forum, no action will be taken by the board, of course, during that.
Right.
But we can make that available, and the bandwidth is definitely better. Mr. Zach Weege and I definitely can attest to that from our virtual academy board meeting last week. It's definitely
So I guess we will dismiss tonight, because then we will be a gathering at that, perhaps.
Well, again, I think it's fine, because, we're making it public at this point in time. We can make that notice in the newspaper as well. It'll be just like a workshop or something of that nature.
As long as you do public notice, the safest way is just to have a continued meeting where no action will be taken.
That's right.
Okay.
Just so there's no question about the way you call it. That's what we is, so you don't act.
Exactly.
Prohibition that you all can't be in the same room, but since it's gonna, especially if it's gonna be here, it probably is safest to just continue the meeting for that day,
Okay,
for no action, for
okay.
the workshop.
So that will be the workshop.
So with that being said, Madam Chair, instead of an adjournment,
Exactly.
recommend a continuation on the 22nd. And I believe that is at 4.
Is it 4? Okay. Okay. Thank all the board members. Thank all the audience for coming out this evening. Probably after this snow spell, we'll probably see touch of spring again.